for the final and ninth reading of the Ramayana, or Ram Leela, the end of Ravan. Ministers hastened to Ravan with the news of Indrajit's demise. Stunned, the lord of demons fell into a nerveless state, pondering his great loss. After some time he stirred, knitting his brows and grinding his teeth. He screamed, venting smoke and flames from his cavernous mouth, and seized his razor-edged sword, resolving to put an end to Sita, the cause of all his troubles. He swept out of his chambers, sending courtiers scurrying for shelter, and hurried down to the Ashoka grove, anxiously followed by his ministers and his wife Mandodari. Just wait for a car to pass. Sita saw his purposeful approach and the long sword at his side, and thought her life was at an end. Weak with fear and resignation, she bowed her head and waited. Suddenly, an elderly minister, Suparshva, spoke up. "Surely you will not do this heinous crime. Since childhood you have honored your religion. Will you destroy all your merits now in one instant by murdering an innocent woman? Turn your anger on Ram, not on this helpless princess." Ravan heeded these words of his trusted advisor and withdrew his sword. With this friend of his, he returned to his council chamber. Ravan believed himself invulnerable. He had a coat given to him by Brahma that was impenetrable even by the arrows of Indra. He therefore determined to kill Ram and Lakshman himself. He ordered his remaining generals to gather whatever was left of his army, still an enormous force, and go ahead with him following them to complete the task. The great army advanced from the city, flying colorful banners and bristling with weapons. But this was not to be their day. Ram put on such a display of fighting power that even he was astonished. So fierce was his onslaught, and so swift his progress, that the demons could not actually see him as he destroyed them. As one cannot see a hurricane flattening a forest, they could only see their warriors falling on all sides. At other times, it seemed to them they saw not one, but hundreds of Rams. He became like the wheel of time, bringing death to all who looked upon him. Within 2 hours, he exterminated the entire demon army with his fire-laden arrows, save a few who managed to escape. Lanka was filled with the bitter tears of the demons' wives, sisters, and daughters. "We blame Surpanaka," they cried. "That ugly and deformed creature should never have touched the handsome Ram. Nor should Ravana have stolen Sita, once he saw how easily Ram disposed of his cousins, Khara and Dushan. Later, the invincible demons Virad and Kabandha, even Vali, the powerful monkey king, were all effortlessly killed by Ram. But still, this obstinate Ravan will not release Sita. Now he has caused the death of our husbands and brothers." Ravan heard their wailing and bit his lips in rage. Gathering the remnants of his once great army and the few generals to have survived the morning's holocaust, he rode out to face Ram. His chariot was resplendent with jeweled pillars and golden domes, and equipped with a huge arsenal of celestial missiles. Rows of tiny bells jingled as it moved across the field, pulled by 8 horses. But just then, a vulture alighted on the top of the chariot. Other birds gave harsh cries. His left eye twitched and his face grew pale, while across the heavens flamed a meteor. Heedless of these omens, Ravan advanced to his own doom. The fighting went against him, and soon his generals were killed by Sugriva and Angad, leaving Ravana virtually alone. Full of rage, he invoked a spell in the name of Rahu, the planet of darkness that eclipses the moon, and cast it over the monkey army, destroying many of them. Then he turned his attention towards Ram, and the two of them entered a full-scale contest of arms. As they circled each other, loosing thunderous missiles charged with mystic potencies, the sky darkened, and all creatures felt oppressed with fear. Although each was pierced repeatedly by the other's shafts, neither felt pain. Ravan's arrows flew toward Ram, manifesting heads of lions, vultures, snakes, and wolves, with open jaws projecting sharpened teeth. Ram met them with arrows of fire, appearing like suns, moons, meteors, and comets. Lakshman and Vibhishan joined the attack, breaking Ravan's bow and killing his horses, forcing him to jump to the ground. Enraged, Ravan took up a javelin invested with deep magic, hung with 8 bells and shining like fire, and launched it at Lakshman with a sound like thunder. Ram, seeing it closing on Lakshman, chanted mantras for his protection, but the javelin sank deep into Lakshman's chest and felled him like a stone. Ram rushed to Lakshman's side, fearing the worst, and with great difficulty extracted task. Vultures circled around Ravan in a darkening sky. Meteors coursed through the heavens. Thunder rolled even without clouds, and blood rained down on his chariot. As the contest reached its climax, all warriors on the field, both monkeys and asuras, the demons, stood motionless and watched in amazement. The denizens of heaven, observing from the sky, anxiously called out to Ram, "May all be well with you. Delay no longer. Conquer this demon now." Ram fired a golden arrow, which took the form of a serpent as it sped towards Ravan. It severed his head, but another head appeared on Ravana's shoulders. Again, Ram cut it off, and again it was replaced. Ram exhausted hundreds of arrows in this way, and the unceasing struggle passed through days and nights, neither gaining mastery over the other. Seeing the situation, Ram's charioteer, Matali, advised him, "The hour of Ravana's doom has come. To kill Ravan, you must use the dreaded arrow of Brahma, given to you by sage Agastya, which never misses its target." Ram took out that arrow, in whose feathers resided the wind god, in whose tip was the sun god and the fire god, whose shaft was made of ether or space, the Akash, and which was itself the essence of all the elements. He charged it with its mystic mantra and dispatched it at Ravan with the speed of sound. Flaming and spitting, covered in smoke, it penetrated the heart of the king of the demons. Ravan's body fell lifeless to the ground. All at once, a breeze whipped up, dispersing the foul odors of the battlefield. The sky cleared, and the sun shone with a warm glow. Flowers rained down, and heavenly music echoed from the sky. Demons melted into the shadows, while monkeys rejoiced and came forward to honor Ram, who was surrounded by his faithful friends on earth and glorified by celestial beings in the sky. Getting a little cool here. Just one moment. Lanka restored. The battle was over. Ravan's huge body lay sprawled on the ground, covered in blood and surrounded by the gruesome aftermath of war, charred and mutilated remains covering the field as far as the eye could see. At his side knelt Vibhishan, with Ram standing behind him. "Oh, great hero," mourned Vibhishan, "why are you lying here, my brother, rather than on the sumptuous bed that you are used to?" "You did not take," spoke Mandodari, Ravan's chief queen. "The only explanation is that Vishnu, the great spirit and eternal sustainer of the worlds, took human form as Ram to finish your life. Sita was the cause of your downfall. The moment you touched her, your end was assured. The only reason the gods did not strike you down was because they feared you, but your actions still brought the fruits they deserved. One who does good gains happiness, and the sinner reaps misery. No one can escape this law." Mandodari wept on Ravan's breast, and her fellow wives tried to console her. Meanwhile, Ram sent Vibhishan into the ruined city of Lanka to make the funeral arrangements and perform the closing rites for Ravan's sacred fire. Soon he returned with the sacred embers, articles of worship, and firewood for the pyre, carried by the Rakshasa priests and attendants. They decorated Ravana's linen shroud with flowers and carried his body in procession to the beach, preceded by the sacred fires and followed by weeping Rakshasa women. Vibhishan ignited the pyre, while the remaining family members threw rice grains into the flames. Vedic hymns were intoned as the mourners looked on in silence. When all was finished, they returned to the city. His anger exhausted, Ram put away his weapons. A deep joy welled in his heart, and his gentle demeanor returned. Sita's ordeal by fire. Just want to pause and say, this scene is not in all stories, all versions of the Ramayana. With Ravana out of the way, Ram's thoughts turned to Sita. He called Hanuman and asked him to take her the news of Ravana's death. He came to the Ashoka grove, unwashed and uncared for, with tears in her eyes, seated on the ground beneath the tree guarded by demon women. He stood respectfully at a distance to deliver his message. Lord Ram is safe and well and has killed Ravan. He sends you this message. After many sleepless months, I have bridged the sea and fulfilled my vow to win you back. You now need have no fear, as you are in the hands of Vibhishan, the new king of Lanka, who will soon come to see you. Sita was speechless with joy to hear this news and waited for more, but Hanuman remained silent. This news is more valuable than all the gold and jewels in the universe, she laughed, and you have delivered it in such sweet words. I cannot repay you enough. If you will permit me, I can deal swiftly with these cruel Rakshasa women, offered Hanuman, eager to be of service. They have so mistreated you. Let me kill them now with my bare hands. He turned to Vibhishan. Go quickly, fetch Sita. Before bringing her here, see that she is bathed and dressed in fresh clothes and adorned as befits a queen. Sita waited in the grove, expecting Ram, but instead she saw the ladies of Vibhishan's household, who came to bring her to his house, where Vibhishan told her to bathe and dress in preparation for meeting Ram. I want to see my husband now, as I am, she protested. But Vibhishan prevailed on her to do Ram's bidding. The ladies helped her bathe and comb out her tangled hair, dressed her in fine clothes and ornaments, and placed her inside a palanquin, covered so. As she gazed into his eyes, her discomfort was forgotten for a moment, and she glowed with happiness. I have won you back according to my vow, announced Ram. The insult against me has been avenged, and its perpetrator repaid for his terrible offense against you. I am once more my own master. All this has been done with the help of Hanuman, Sugriv, and Vibhishan, to whom I am indebted. Ram spoke without emotion, but his voice sounded strange as it rang out across the crowd. His heart bled for Sita, but he must not show it. She looked upon her lord, with tears falling down her cheeks, and dreaded what he might say next. I have redeemed my honor and won you back, he went on. But your honor is not so easy to redeem, since you have lived in the house of a demon who has embraced you in his arms and made you the object of his lust. I therefore relinquish my attachment to you. You are free to go wherever you please. A shocked silence fell over the assembly. Sita tried to take in what she had just heard. She had never in her life received a cross word from her husband. Now he had condemned her in public with these awful words. For her, this was worse than death. She bowed her head in shame before this crowd of strangers and cried uncontrollably as Ram waited in stern silence for her response. After a little while, she wiped her eyes and stood straight, her face pale, her voice trembling, but strong. You speak hurtful words, my lord, but I am not what you take me for. I am daughter of the earth, who was seized against my will by force. If you were to reject me, it would have been better if you had told me through Hanuman when he first came. Then I would have put an end to my life and saved you the trouble of coming here to kill Ravan, endangering the lives of all these innocent people. You forget that when I was a child, you took my hand and promised me your protection, and that I have served you faithfully ever since. My heart has always remained fixed on you, but now you, of all people, do not trust me. What am I to do? Sita's voice broke with emotion. She turned to speak to Lakshman. I have no desire to live when I have been falsely accused and publicly rejected by my husband. Death is my only course. Prepare a pyre for me. I will enter the flames. Stunned at this request, Lakshman looked at his brother. Ram nodded his assent. No one dared to contradict him, whose anger seemed capable of destroying the universe. Lakshman mechanically went about his brother's bidding, and before long, a funeral pyre had been built and set alight. The fire began to crackle. Sita circled around Ram and proceeded towards the pyre. Standing before the blazing flame, she called in a loud voice. Women screamed and fainted. A great cry, strange and terrible to hear, went up from all the monkeys, bears, and rakshasas present. Ram sat immobile, like one who had lost his life, and tears flooded his eyes. The gods heard Sita's cry for help and were troubled at her ordeal. It was time for them to intervene. The creator, Brahma, Shiva, the destroyer, Indra, the king of heaven, All boarded their chariots and flew down to earth, where they appeared shining in front of Ram. The fire god Agni rose up out of the flames of the funeral pyre, bearing Sita in his arms. She was unharmed by the fire, her clothes and ornaments, even the flowers decorating her hair, were exactly as before. Agni brought her to Ram. Here is your wife, Sita, who is without sin. She has never been unfaithful to you in thought, word, or deed. I command you to treat her gently. This ordeal for Sita was necessary, Ram explained. I had to absolve her from any blame and to preserve the good name of my family. I know she has always been faithful, but I had to prove her innocence in front of others. I know, but I had to prove her innocence. Sorry, there's a skip here. In truth, I could not be separated from Sita any more than the sun can part from its own rays. With these words, Sita and Ram were reunited. It now remained for Indra to grant Ram one last wish. We are all pleased with your actions, Ram, and would like to grant you a boon. What is your wish? Ram was unhesitating. May all these monkeys and bears who have sacrificed their lives for me be brought back to life and returned to their wives and families. It shall be done, declared Indra. Then the monkeys and bears rose up, their limbs restored, their injuries healed, as if from a long and peaceful sleep. You may return to your homes, pronounced the assembled gods. And Ram, be kind to the noble princess Sita. Make haste to Ayodhya, where your brother Bharat awaits you. Then they boarded their golden chariots and departed for the heavens. Almost done. Homecoming. Vibhishan invited Ram to take his bath and put on royal robes and ornaments. I cannot bathe until I have been reunited with Bharat, said Ram. For the last 14 years, he has lived as an ascetic for my sake. Now I must hurry to him. If you would please me, help me to get to Ayodhya as soon as is possible. That is easily done, replied Vibhishan. The fabulous Pushpak chariot will fly you there by sunset. But first remain here a while, and let me entertain you and your army. I would not refuse you, Vibhishan, after you have done so much for me, but I long to see Bharat and my mother. Vibhishan summoned the chariot, which arrived instantly, gleaming with its golden domes. Ram took the shy Sita in his arms and boarded the plane with Lakshman. Settle peacefully in your kingdoms, he told Sugriva, Vibhishan, and their ministers. You have both served me so well. Now they stopped overnight at Bharadwaja's ashram, and Ram sent Hanuman ahead with messages for Bharat. He was worried that Bharat might resent having to give up the kingdom to his brother. He need not have feared. Hanuman arrived at the village of Nandigram, outside Ayodhya, and found Bharat living as Ram had lived during his exile, dressed in deerskin, with Ram's wooden shoes occupying the central position in his court. When he heard of Ram's return, he jumped for joy and hugged Hanuman, showering him with gifts. The next morning, Bharat led everyone out to meet Ram, with Ram's sandals at the head of the procession. A great cry went up when the people saw Lord Ram seated in the Pushpak chariot as it slowly descended. Ram came forward and took Bharat in his arms. Bharat hugged Lakshman and greeted Sita, and then embraced one by one all the leading monkeys. Ram tearfully clasped the feet of his mother and offered his respects to the sage Vasishtha. Bharat then placed his shoes back on his feet. I return to you your kingdom, which I have held in trust for you, said Bharat with emotion. By your grace, all has flourished, and my life is now fulfilled. Again Ram hugged Bharat, while many of the monkeys and even Vibhishan shed a tear. Then he and Sita were bathed and dressed in royal finery. Sumantra brought where Ram gave them the freedom of his palace and gardens. For Ram's coronation, monkeys were sent by Sugriv to collect water from the 4 seas, east, south, west, and north, and from 500 rivers. Vasishtha conducted the ceremony, bathing Ram with sacred waters and installing Sita and Ram on the throne. Ram distributed gifts to all his people. Sita looked kindly on Hanuman, unclasping her pearl necklace. She hesitated, looking shyly at her husband. Ram understood. Give it to the one who has pleased you best, he said, and she placed it around Hanuman's neck. For a month after Ram's coronation, festivities and merrymaking continued. When it was time for them to go, the monkeys cried and stammered. It was a sad parting. Last of all came Hanuman. My Lord, please grant my request, submitted Hanuman. Let me always be devoted to you and no one else, and let me live as long as your story is remembered on earth. Ram hugged Hanuman and granted his wish, saying, your name and your life will last as long as my story is repeated, which will be until the end of the world. Jai Sitaram, Jai Hanuman, Jai Gurudev. Thank you all for the friends here at the mandir and to all friends at home. Reminding you that we will have puja and yajna tomorrow here at the temple, which will be live streamed from 5:30 until about 8.